Hello and welcome to another episode of Tecman Talks Dynamics. Today we are back on the CRM and Power Platform train, and I've got Kelly, John, Zach and myself, Jason, with you. And the topic today is Wave 1 2025 and the highlights, the what we've seen that we want to kind of mention or raise to you, and what we can look forward to. Now, the caveat that I'll bring, that I always say when we do a wave release podcast, is that when it comes to CRM and Power Platform, not everything is going to be general availability on April, or the April release. Obviously, the rollout works, it's roughly in the UK about the second weekend-ish that we start to get the functionality available to us for Wave 1. But how CRM and Power Platform work is that they will drip feed that functionality out throughout kind of April to September. So we will try and mention as we go through certain kind of functions and when they're going to be available. But also that's subject to change as well. So anyway, sales, start with sales. Who wants to start? Because I think the theme of this is always going to be about agents and Copilot again, but who wants to start?
Guess I'll start with sales. So like you say, pretty much everything in sales is Copilot driven.
Yep,
some form of agent. So the first thing that we've got is boosted qualified pipeline with sales qualification agent.
Okay, yeah. And tell me, what's that?
So in English, what that means is basically they're introducing 3 different agents that make up the sales qualification agent. So we've got the research agent.
Yep.
So the research agent is basically going to go and trawl through CRM, public data sources, all of that kind of thing, and find information that it can on your company's customers' leads.
And when you say public data sources, do you get to choose what those public data sources are?
No idea. Okay. They didn't let us know that.
Yeah, I think it would be quite cool if you put their web address in and it go and looked at the website, for example. But again,
I assume by public data sources it means all public data sources.
Yeah, okay.
But there wasn't any
Wikipedia.
Yeah, maybe. there wasn't any clarification about what public data sources means.
Yeah, okay.
But so it will go and check public data sources.
Yep.
One would assume that includes things like Companies House, which is just open for searching on the internet and things like that. So
it'd be nice if you can prioritise which to go and search. You've got some generic ones, they say, then also go and look at their website field.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
But it's probably unlikely. But so then the next one is the prioritisation agent. So the prioritisation agent uses all of that research that it's done to go and determine which ones are more likely to actually, qualify as leads and opportunities. So
that priority field that we've had on the lead record for a long time that is
irrelevant.
Yeah.
Is
going to be irrelevant moving forward, or the agent's going to update it for us.
Yeah. So it basically goes and it looks through all of that public data that the research has found, and it determines whether or not it thinks that the customer can afford the project, whether or not it thinks the customer, has any inclination to buy it, whether the product that you're selling fits with their scope of work and business. We'll see how it looks. That's what it's promising. And then the third one is the engagement agent, which creates personalised emails to, capture your target audience and try and draw them in based on the data that the research and the prioritisation agent has found.
So the link to that, though, I know you've got it a little bit further down on some of the notes, is that kind of engagement agent and the responses and the I think the next big thing for Copilot for me is where it talks about the tone.
Yeah.
That you can adjust. Where, see, right now you've got kind of formal, informal, friendly, or whatever it is, and you still sit there sometimes going, I wouldn't write like that. But it's a starter for 10. But it feels, again, what I read was you're going to be able to start to create your own personal tones to save into the system that Copilot can work with.
Yeah, so the way that Microsoft have put it is they've called it provide your own tone of voice across email communications. And basically the short version of it is you can either create your own tone, so you can describe it using natural language. Like at our CRM customer day, me and Ben had a play around with Copilot as it was then, and we told it to speak like an Australian, and it was calling everybody mate. So presumably you can do that sort of thing with it, or you can ask it to trawl through your previous email data to, determine how you communicate with people. You can choose predefined templates and tones. So, if you want to be a stiff upper lip British bloke, I'm sure there's probably a template for that. But obviously the caveat of that is that it ensures communication is consistent. So when you're having a bad day, you're not a little bit extra snarky in the emails to people, So, but obviously that fits in with a communication agent then as well, because if you're automating communications, you want it to sound like you're not automating communications.
Yeah, you want it to send, goes back to the whole natural language kind of.
Yeah. But it's probably worth noting that the boosted pipeline features are supposed to be in public preview in March and then released in April, but the customised tone is only public preview in April, and we haven't got a date for when that's going to be released yet. So you can't use the two in conjunction just yet.
Okay. So I think, again, I think the summary of kind of the bits on the sales side is it feels like they're trying to make it, again, from a sales perspective, a CRM-based system. It's not just the salesperson puts in the data, they say what they've done, they move it to the next stage kind of scenario, where it always gets that principle that, it's just a place for me to stick my data, whereas obviously it should always be more than that. But now it's that next stage where it's throwing more stuff at you in your face to say, hey, what about, how to prioritise. It's not just the ask me a question, it's going to throw stuff more back at you to help you with your day. So I think overall, I feel it's positive. Again, we'll take it with a pinch of salt that it's still going to take time to evolve, in my opinion. Yeah. And you're going to sit there and go, it's okay, but it's a step in the right direction, is my gut feeling again from Microsoft in that area. I
think the thing with sales is that over the last probably 2 or 3 years, we've seen the shift towards more automated selling and automated selling processes, as opposed to just having a business process flow and moving your opportunity through your pipeline.
Yeah.
So I think this is probably the start of the culmination of that automation actually coming to fruition.
Yeah.
And starting to be useful to people. So, obviously we'll have to see what it looks like when we get the actual previews to play with. But
yeah, I think as well it's touching on that personalisation type area, and in terms of exams, not to bore people with exams, but the sales and the marketing exams are becoming one, so that crossover between personalised communication is now also becoming present in sales, as it was in customer insights.
The other bit around kind of the link to kind of the automated responses and the kind of the communication agent is where they talked about kind of this kind of falls in line a little bit with probably the improved Exchange integration they're talking about with the out of office detection. So it won't send it if it knows it's out of office. Now that's not going to be available from April general availability, but the idea is that it's looking, going, okay, what's the point in sending this when they're not there, and it's just going to end up in the big massive emails that they're just going to click delete, skim over that, etc., and they don't really pay attention to when they're back. Whereas, so that I thought that, again, that's quite neat from that perspective as well. But yeah, the other one I wanted to say was they're talking about kind of a set of improvements for the Exchange Outlook integration between CRM and reliability, and just some more kind of granular management that you can have of it. But also it's very loose in terms of exactly what that means in reality. Yeah. But that's, I think from my perspective, we've taken a way of a step forward compared to what it used to be probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago for the Outlook integration. But what improvement of reliability and granularity management actually means, I think the proof will be in the pudding a little bit. So I think that's a wait to hear more on that one, I think, because it's still too generic of what's in the release notes.
It was a very generic description.
Yeah. Anything else on sales, or shall we move on to...
The only other thing is that it's kind of ties in with your Outlook integration, but they're also looking at doing automated follow-ups for emails based on lead responses. So again, more automation of communication and lead self-booking. So if you're the kind of business where you need appointments, to go and see customers, and you want leads to be able to, create those appointments on the fly, they're apparently now going to be able to do that.
I think the idea is, I think we've seen that quite a lot in just us speaking with customers or our suppliers or Microsoft or etc. It's like you see in signatures, go and book a meeting with me kind of scenario. I think initial engagements, and that's a window and says, right, I want to engage, but here's my details, but I want a first call on this particular time on this particular date, and having that kind of go through CRM opposed to still having to go to CRM, offer it, then put it in, etc.
Yeah.
And then track all the appointment. I think to then drive that process again is a more efficient way of working as well. So I think that's a good step forward as well.
Yeah. Again, we're going to have to see what the reality's like, but it sounds positive.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Service, customer service, should I say? Anyone want to mention anything else but agents? Or shall we start with agents?
Should we start with agents and knowledge base articles?
Yeah.
So they're introducing a knowledge management agent. Everything's got a
We've
posh,
just got
posh
lots.
agent now.
We've just got lots. Copilot is now being fronted by agents.
Yeah. So the short version is you resolve a case, it reads your notes, all your communications with your customer, it creates a knowledge base article based on what you've discussed with the customer.
If you want it to.
If you want it to. Yeah. So a few advantages to this as opposed to getting people to write knowledge base articles. Firstly, saves a lot of time. Knowledge base articles take a long time to write.
Yeah.
But so the agent will automatically analyse the case, all the conversations and everything for it, and draw the best conclusion it can for what the fix was. It checks to see if there's an existing article or a similar article. And it scrubs all the sensitive data so you don't accidentally leave screenshots of your customer system in the knowledge base article. And then you can also run it against historical cases if you need to.
I think, again, I've had a bit of a play with this a little bit in the past week or so by doing some demos. And it's quite a nice feature. You get the dialogue box. The annoying bit is that the most annoying bit I see right now is when the dialogue box comes up to close your case and it says your status reason, your resolution reason, etc. Because of the size of the dialogue box depending on your resolution, actually you've got to scroll down, and by default it's ticked by default on create the knowledge base article, which is okay, but the idea is if you're just going to click resolve case and click OK, it's a case of you probably want to have it in front of you and do I want to and have that a conscious. So again, I'd need to check if the setting is by default it's no, it's not on. You can move it to that opposed to yes, by default it wants to create a knowledge base article every single time. That was my only initial bit of feedback, but I haven't been able to play with it enough yet in the preview. But I quite like the feature, and when it has done it, it has also kind of tried to structure it in a better way as well, in terms of like headings and bolds and stuff like that, which was quite nice.
I find with customers a lot, the thing that puts them off the knowledge base is the overhead of creating the knowledge base.
Yeah.
Oh, we used to see it internally as well before we really got to town on it. So
yeah, it's an awful lot of work. I mean, obviously the return on that investment of the time is worth it when your customers can self-serve, on a portal or wherever they need to. But that initial dump of time it takes to create it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of to put on your users as well to get them to actually do it, because it's not exactly exciting, is it?
Yeah.
Creating knowledge base articles.
The knowledge base is always one of those. It's a great, feature, in thought, but in practice of actually building the knowledge base up, it's a lot of admin and time that needs taken. So obviously introducing automation into that is going to speed up that process and help everyone really.
Yeah, but this is in public preview now as well, so people can go and turn it on in their sandbox systems. Please don't put it on in live. Go and turn it on in their sandbox systems, and go through their historical cases and see what Copilot can come up with.
Yeah.
But it is kind of dependent on actually putting the correct information in when you resolve a case.
Oh, absolutely.
If you just put case closed without any details.
Sorted.
Yeah.
You're not going to get
the knowledge base article says sorted.
So I think this is the thing that Copilot and all of these different agents are going to highlight to people, is the importance of data. Yeah. Because historically, I mean, we've all seen it.
Rubbish in, rubbish out, garbage in, garbage out, the whole...
all the time. Yeah, we're not normally that polite about it, but yeah.
No, I'm on a podcast, so I will keep my tone to a sensible level.
But rubbish in, rubbish out, and then you've got people that are putting dots for last names because it's a required field and you've got to fill it in, and you just end up with rubbish. So
I remember we had that conversation in Brussels, didn't we, at the conference about the sort of data you're putting for sales data, which customers can I see while I'm here?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's only valuable if you put the address in,
Yeah.
so they can see where they are.
Oh.
So it does add that extra element of get your data, so that your data is consistent and it's correct and complete.
Yeah, your data, again, the emphasis that all these agents rely on good quality data, not half-baked data, which, again, that comes down to how actually, what data do you truly want to capture? And sometimes less can be more. Don't just put it in there just so there's lots of fields, because otherwise if they half get filled in, then you're not going to get the value add anyway. So, yeah. Okay, anything else service-wise?
So the other thing that we've got is sentiment indicators in emails. Don't know why it's taken this long.
Are we talking this as someone sends an email in and basically it puts an unhappy face because they've said, I'm not very happy with you?
Well, so again, we
don't know.
Have to wait and see. A bit loose on details, but to be fair, if the sentiment analysis that they put into emails is anything like the sentiment analysis that we've currently got in Omnichannel, it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Omnichannel, obviously, it is based on the words people are using. So, if people are using angry words, it's going to think that they're angry. But it is pretty good at tracking the sentiment throughout the conversation. So if you're starting with someone that's, really upset and sending you an email because they've got, their system's down or, something really bad's happened, and then you get to the point where they're smiley face and at the end of the case, then, you've done a good job.
Yeah. It's also important, having sentiment for people that are picking up cases. If you've got customer service people on holiday and whatever, they could obviously just review the sentiment of the case that's ongoing so they know where they're picking it up,
Well, also as well, if you've got, escalating processes within your organisation and you've got really, really angry customer, you're probably going to want to escalate that case sooner rather than later to someone to deal with that.
Yeah. I think the next point from this is whether they'll need to also put it on his portal comments.
Yes. Yeah. But probably not yet.
Yeah.
I can only hope.
Baby steps.
I can only hope.
Baby steps. Maybe they're listening. But yeah, so then a couple of other things from service. So creating personalised case views for the inbox. So for people that don't know what the inbox is, they've introduced customer service workspace, and I think it's very good. But what it comes with is an inbox that basically lists all of the cases you're working on, but also any emails and queues that you're in and various other activities from queues. But at the moment, the inbox, you can't customise it. The view is what the view is. Yeah,
just one big list of everything put together.
Just one big list of everything put together. You can apply filters to it, but you can't, add fields into it. You can't sort it by priority. You can't. It's very restricted on what you can do. So now they're giving admins the ability to create these. They call them personal views, but they're not. The admins can create views, and then the users can pick the views they want to use for the inbox. But it still allows for a level of customisation that is going to be useful for people.
Yeah, improve visibility for use opposed to just some basic filters to start off with, I guess. The other one was surveys for me. That the idea is that agents, etc., like if you're on the website and you've got a Copilot agent that you've created on your website in those bots, it's going to be clever enough to start to ask for feedback and gather that feedback and those responses and start to collate them, etc. Again, limited right now on exactly how that's structured, and I wonder how much would link to trying to pick questions out of customer voice, for example, and try and put those together and put those responses all in and do it in that way. Don't know yet, but again, sometimes being able to ask the piece of feedback in an ad hoc manner sometimes might help us say, do you want to fill in our survey? So again, we'll see how that comes out, but that is actually GA in April, so that's something that we'll get to play with a little bit more. Anything else service-wise? No? Insights journeys. Marketing.
Yeah, so I think one which is always a big one that people always want, this saves me telling people over and over again, you can't, stop a journey once it's going, is just the ability to pause and then resume a journey for anything that's unplanned that happens, people spotting typos, etc. Or if, something within the business is just, pause this journey, change it and then resume the journey. Yeah. Something which is really going to help people, because no matter how many times, you tell people. There's always going to be that need to pause a journey required on most customers. Is
and
reality.
change and then adapt
to change something.
and keep running it.
Yeah, rather than stop.
Especially if it's a campaign that's running, a journey that's running for like 4 weeks.
Yeah, if it's a long campaign, it's definitely something which, you know, everyone is going to need. So that's, you know, a really big improvement, but it's just a small feature.
Yeah,
just being able to pause the journey.
It's the most simple of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's something that people always ask about.
Yeah, yeah, because once the journeys are stopped, that was the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one which is, as I say, small feature, but going to be a big improvement. But events is probably the biggest change in customer insights. If you've ever listened to a podcast that I've done before, I've whinged about the Angular events portal.
Surprised you're not doing a little dance at this one.
Probably been whinging about that portal for years
at
this point.
We can put it in a little advert that we do this podcast on, and our marketing group can create something to it. So you doing a little dance around kind of advertising this podcast and just for the marketing events
the
piece.
death of the Angular portal as well.
Yeah.
Outbound marketing itself is obviously going in June 2025.
Yeah.
So the event side of things obviously is moving over to real-time marketing now. And with that comes the new Power Pages events portals. Again, we don't actually know what this is going to be like in reality, but you would have thought it's going to be a significant improvement on Angular just by the fact you can customize Power Pages.
I would say it can't be any worse, but
no,
then
it can't be.
You never know.
I think Power Pages still has its, I'm going to say challenges, but it's not like doing a WordPress website, for example, in terms of like what some typical web designers used to. But it's going to offer more flexibility of working with kind of core marketing CRM based data as well, that we've seen kind of when we've created other portals for customers that are customer based or relationship based for other business process reasons. So I think the whole event based portal and a bit more flexibility that we'll get functionality wise is only a good thing.
Definitely. You're not limited with design changes because, you know, people build portals, they want to change X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a lot easier in Power Pages than it ever is in Angular.
Even just being able to apply a theme
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just those things are just going to be godsends really on the events front. But also with events, this is something which is just, you know, written down. Don't know how this will work in reality either. Is you can integrate the new event portal with your existing website CMS via JavaScript. So the thought is you can just take JavaScript from the event portal and put those events on your website.
And just embed them in. That obviously takes away, for instance, we use Joomla CMS, so a lot of companies will use their own forms on whatever website builder they're using. You know, people submit the event, then they've got to put it in Dynamics. Obviously, you can integrate the event registration forms, but
to be fair,
this will be a big thing if it works.
We've got it with the marketing forms, haven't we?
Yeah.
With the
you can already do it with the forms,
So assuming that it works the same way.
Yeah, the whole capture piece.
Assuming that it works the same way, it should be quite good.
Yeah, so the forms already is a great thing, but taking the entire events page and putting it on a website, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it's as good as it sounds. Because I'm sure a lot of people will want to try this out.
Yep.
That's definitely a good one. As well, on events, you can use custom registration fields. You could do this before in outbound marketing, but this is the classic, you know, what do you want to eat at an event? You can just create the custom registration field without, let me create a new field in Dataverse and just have a million fields that are irrelevant.
So the example of that is like food, dietary requirements, special access requirements.
Yeah.
On top of that, things like sessions as well.
Yeah.
In terms of you doing an event during the day and you've got multiple sessions, pitch for the CRM Connect event in a couple of months. That you can then select what session you're going to be on, opposed to having to go and create Dataverse fields to then hold somewhere on what table, etc. That there is a solution for it, but is it the best in the world? No, not really. So I think that's quietly a really good feature that's going to come out, because that's going to say that's going to give the tool just more flexibility in it, opposed to having to go elsewhere in the Dataverse CRM to hold that data.
Yeah, those custom registration fields, like I say, they were in outbound, but one thing with those, they were held against the actual event registration sort of itself, and they were in like a custom area. So exporting and looking at them,
You couldn't get to it easily.
was never the easiest thing. So hopefully that's going to improve as well. And then the last one really is around establishing quiet times. So you can now do quiet times based on different regions. So if you're a massive business, you can set the quiet time based on whatever region you're emailing to.
Not quiet time as in, I just don't want you to send me an email.
It basically is just saying send out emails 9 to 5.
Yeah, so if you're in
Rather
Australia
than 3
versus
o'clock in the
UK,
morning.
you send it
Yeah.
at a time appropriate opposed to we'll send it out at 10 a.m. GMT time, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, parts of the world are still early in the morning, later in the
Exactly.
day, etc. Yeah, okay.
Or worse,
Exactly
some people have got work emails on the phone and you disturb them.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. So yeah, that's also going to be a good feature
Cool.
as well if you're a bigger business for sure.
Just to finish the Dynamics product set, field service, which is something that we're starting to explore and do more often with some customers with field service. I think the only one high level agent.
Agent. You'll be surprised to hear there is a scheduling operations agent.
So yeah, that's not coming out for a few months. So
No,
we
but-
don't really know what that's gonna do in.
No, but the idea is that you turn around to it and you say, this resource had cancellation, optimise this resource you schedule, and it goes and fills in the gaps.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Agent. I feel like, you know, when I say co-pilot, and I'm going to go, I used to do co-pilot bingo. I think 2025 is agent bingo. Yeah.
There should be a quiz on all of the different agents at
No,
the
there
end
should
of
not.
the year.
No, they should not.
See if you can name them all.
It does feel like a shift. I mean, if you did a word cloud of the previous release documents for the last couple of years, it would just say Copilot in the middle. And I did a check actually. Copilot is still mentioned over 300 times in both of the main documents, but it does feel like agent is going to be
Did you ask
there.
Copilot to count it?
No.
That's
That's an interesting one.
And then the other one was access online data with your offline first application. Ooh, sounds fancy.
It's not.
Oh.
It's not. So basically, we used to have offline mode, which was basically you were online first, and then when you had no interconnection, you were offline. And then we had offline first, which meant that it downloaded all of the data anyway for you, and then you operated like you were offline all the time, and then you just occasionally synchronised back to the cloud periodically. And now we've got
Somewhere in between.
Yeah, somewhere in between. So if you've got a really good internet connection,
You're always online.
It'll work like you're online. It'll synchronise automatically. If you're offline, the idea is that the data that you downloaded to your device is better.
Yeah. I think the principle behind it is that the user doesn't see the difference in the experience.
Yeah.
They think it's just, no matter where I am, it's just my data, my job, my process. Obviously, you're still saying, well, what data is relevant to you in your kind of process, your day? And I think that's the principle. But I think we've also found that the whole offline first with Microsoft, it's okay if you use it in the realms of what Microsoft have given you. If you then start customizing ribbons with buttons and all that kind of stuff that be relevant to your process, it starts to fall over, is the best way to describe it. So you have to resort back to the old offline, I say old, the traditional way of offline functionality to make it work for your business. So I'd caveat that release with a little bit of a, Microsoft need to do something better in the offline first or online, offline way of working, if I'm being honest, because I don't think they've nailed it properly.
No, but that does kind of segue into the first Power Apps function that they've introduced. So previously, when you were creating offline profiles for devices, you'd have to just add a table in the relationships and you got the table.
Yeah.
Now you can select the columns that you want. So you only need to select the columns that are relevant. So if you've got, 100 custom fields on your account table, but your person that's using the device offline doesn't need to know about those 100 fields, you don't need to include them. So it limits the amount of data that you have to download, which means that it functions better.
Yeah, okay. Bit more efficient.
More efficiently. Yeah.
Other Power Apps? So we're on to Power Apps then.
Yeah.
And Canvas apps and model-driven apps, the world of Power Apps. What else we got?
So we can, we've been able to add AI to certain out-of-the-box tables. So we've had case summary, account summary, I think there was an opportunity summary, but now we can add it to any table that we want to.
So within Dynamics, so if we had a project record if you work in building construction projects and you want to summarise that record, or you've got a samples record, or you've got a non-conformance record, etc. We can start to add AI summaries into those records.
Yeah, and not only that we can add custom tables, but we can also determine which fields we want to include.
That was always my biggest bugbear.
Yeah.
Oh, it works on that table, but it only works on 10 fields.
Yeah.
And the 10 fields are what Microsoft define. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can now tell it which fields to look at to generate that summary as well.
Be interested to know if there's still a limit on that when we get into it,
Probably.
Because it used to be something like 10, and then you have to chop and change and remove one and make sure you're only at the 10 limit kind
Well,
of scenario.
to be fair, it's not a summary, is it, if you're looking at every field on the record?
No, but the idea is some piece of data, some records can get quite busy with a lot of data on it. And I'm not saying 100, but I'm saying 10 is probably is still on the low end, is what I'd say. Okay. What else we got?
There's one I'm really keen to see, which I only found out a couple of days ago in model-driven apps, which is the idea of filtered views that can then access data. And we've all done this when we've set up a system, we've done security.
Yeah.
If it's a user-owned model, then you can grant access to people, whether if you own it or not. If it's business units, you can take it that, or you have either no access or all access.
Yeah.
But it's the idea then that if you've got a table that is organisation access, you've either got access to everything, or you've got access to nothing.
Yeah.
And this is going to allow for more sort of security to filter the views, not just necessarily to filter them out, but actually to take the security away to not even show them. So, the one that Microsoft have said, if you've got a list of cities, you can say this person's only allowed to see cities X, Y, and Z, then everything else disappears.
Yep.
But I'm keen to see if that's something you can add relation-wise. So if you want to look at cases that are in a particular city, for example, why you'd want to, I don't know. But if you could do it that way, can you do it on that related table, or is it just to be able to filter that down? Because as I say, we've only had the sort of role-based security. There's things like the hierarchy and the positional security and field level security, solid column level security. It'll always be field level security.
It will be,
to be able to sort of hide bits and bobs from people, that will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that's again. I think it's always been can we filter those views out? We can give you the filter. We apply it to the sitemap. We apply it to the app. We apply it to the role and the permission, and that's it. And you go, can you get in? No. And so I think it gives that again a bit more granular management, but also makes the experience a bit more relevant to the users as well in terms of what views they need to see, opposed to we'll just give you everything and then you just look at that list. Because in some instances, on some leads, opportunities, cases, etc., those views, lots of them can actually, the list can get pretty long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can also do that with one of our other favourite buzz terms, natural language query.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the moving on. The other thing in the Power App section we sat here at Wave 2 2024 and we all had a little bit of a joke about Microsoft's filling in the form for you assistant. I can't remember what they called it.
AI suggestions.
Yeah. So we all had a little bit of a chuckle about it. So they've, and I'm quoting, improve form fill assistance by adding custom knowledge. So what that means is that you can upload a file to provide custom knowledge for this suggestions AI to improve the suggestions that it gives you. So yeah, watch this space. Yeah. So that's due out preview any day now. So we'll see what that does.
I still think it's a suggestion that Microsoft have got their suggestion functionality a little bit wrong at this moment in time.
I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah.
But
Rest of agents I'm good with, but this suggestion piece, yeah.
I think the suggestions and the natural language search have both got a really useful feature, which is by going into settings, you can turn them off. That's the
Obviously, we completely promote the use of the latest functionality.
It will get there. It will get
Except
there.
AI suggestions at the moment.
Not yet. Not yet.
people ask us for our honest opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We're moving on to the Power Automate. Okay. Anyone Power Automate that they want to go through?
I've got one I'm eager to see.
Yeah, go on.
When we do complicated systems, and you have flows that trigger flows that trigger flows. You'll know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because that's the sensible way of doing it. If you've got a process that has to be repeated, don't include it in a flow that you then have to repeat for all the flows. You have it in a child flow that can then be referenced and you return what you need. And you can, if you need to change that process, you do it once rather than many times. It's a way of working. But when you need to bug fix, trying to find things like that and where your problems have gone have been an absolute pain. We have got tools that we can add in, but it's stuff that we have to code in, and we have to sort of get the URL of the flow. We then have to return the URL so you can see where it is. You then have to put it in a browser. It's now saying that we're going to get a process map so we can see where all the flows go to, and we can see where the issues are and the failures. So from a sort of governance point of view of Power Automate, that's going to be interesting, because the failures when you're bug fixing, and certainly when you have an issue in live when things change, can be a challenge. It wasn't like the workflows where everything was on the related record. You don't know it's gone. You have to look and see, has it gone? And so it's
I think that visualization aspect and being able to identify, and I think the amount of flows that we've now written for customers over recent years that are in customer systems, and working with Business Central, working with Core CRM, working with just Power Pages, etc. I wouldn't want to think about how many thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of flows that we've now got out there that we've worked with customers on, and obviously supporting of that. Again, it's those workflows that become critical to an organisation's operation. So again, it's a step in the right direction for sure. Anything else on flow specifically? I didn't think Flow, Power Automate had really that many standout pieces that I can sit on a podcast with our audience and go, yes, you need to know about this kind of scenario. There's some other subtle pieces, but
I think the overall verdict of Power Automate of what's coming is it's just easier to navigate around Power Automate and find out what's going wrong. That is the release.
I think which is what we needed, to be fair.
Again, just making like we don't know.
Just making sure the new designer is as functional as it needs to be is the best thing. Going, good old Microsoft, we got you the new designer, but you still got the old designer. Please use the new designer. New designer fails, let's go back to the old designer. Microsoft just get the new designer as is of what the old designer was and more. I think that's the bit. And then obviously I think with the Power Automate kind of control center, whatever it's called, administration center, just the administration, the issue, the collation of information in a better way. Obviously, I think, and the governance of it, I think that's the next step, the journey I think you can see that they're on with Power Automate at the moment.
Yeah. I think they've realised that they obviously gave us this really, really powerful tool, but they gave us no way to know what this really, really powerful tool was doing when you weren't looking at it.
Yeah. Power Pages? Anything specifically that anybody wants to mention on Power Pages?
Well, again, it's really a basic feature, but just the ability to drag and drop images onto the portal.
Basically attach file.
Rather than attaching file. That's one that I've seen. Also, as you said with Power Automate, Power Automate, you just want it to be the same as what we had. Power Pages is kind of the same in that they've released a feature around modernising the lists. So lists in Power Pages are just views basically. And now you can style them in the new Power Pages, which you could do. It's always bugged me
why lists were very different to views when you were building forms in the model-driven apps, etc., and all that kind of stuff, and then your views and your lists were very different. So again, to align them makes sense.
They're just aligning it to what it was, basically, and just being able to customise what those lists look like, so they don't look quite as boring as they currently do.
I think the attaching files and the size of the files and stuff like that is the big one for me. That makes it more usable. For support issues, for uploading documents that support kind of customer contracts or supplier contracts or whatever, that just makes it easier and more usable. Otherwise going, can you send me that separately, please? It doesn't work.
And it's not just drag and drop, it's actually just camera. So if there's a problem, take a picture.
I think that's the good thing as well, that principle of the camera, especially if you're using it for like third-party contractors or engineers and stuff like that, for them to easily go, right, I'll now just get the picture assigned to it from that record. Again, better usability. Okay, and obviously we can go on to AI Builder and all those kind of pieces, and there's a bit around governance that they talk about, but I think, is there anything else that specifically for this podcast that anybody wants to highlight or mention?
I think again it's just all agents, co-pilots.
And I think I think realistically that is the takeaway of Wave 1 2025, with especially the Dynamics 365 CRM, customer engagement apps, sales, customer service, marketing, customer insights, field service, is that this introduction of agents using the Copilot technology, i.e. here's Copilot, here's some of the questions and answers that you can get, here's some agents that's going to, on top of what it is, and its specific functions that it's going to help you with. I think that's the theme. I think we've seen it a little bit with Business Central. The first one with BC is the sales order one. I know there's another one in the pipeline that they're talking about, but I don't know whether I'm under NDA, so I'm going to keep stum and not say what that one is. But the idea is that you can see that, again, CRM-wise, how many have we mentioned already? And they're already flying ahead with, 5, 6, 7, 8 agents that by hopefully September, October will be in the system and being used by people. And I think that's the summary takeaway, is that agents is the next level of evolution for kind of Copilot and CRM.
I think the thing is that the last time, again, when we sat here, in October last year or whenever it was, and we were joking about it realistically. We were taking the mick out of Copilot and everything being Copilot, for the last 2 releases. And I think the reality is now is that whilst everything in this release is Copilot, it's useful Copilot.
Yeah, they're starting to make an actual business use of it, opposed to, here's the technology, but what are we actually going to do with it besides stick a Copilot on your website kind of scenario?
Yeah. It's no longer a gimmick. It's now useful. It's now a process.
And the next conferences looking at tell me the weather.
The next bit will be going, right,
that
now
doesn't
we've got
even work.
Now we've got these agents. It's a case of, right, these agents, how do we then tailor them per customer? Because you'll have the qualification, go, well, how I qualify in this company and a lead and an opportunity is very different to how I do it in this company. How I do service in this company is very different. And the ability to then take that agent and say, I'm going to modify, change, refine that agent to the specific needs of that business. That's where we're starting to go to. And then obviously, if you want agents that are to your custom functionality, are samples. Again, I could see us creating a samples agent in due course. I could see us creating a non-conformance agent in due course. But the idea is that Microsoft say, well, this is standard CRM functions, and this is why you're paying the money for Microsoft's tool, because this is what it's going to give you. So yeah, I think agents is the takeaway from this Wave release. And of course, agents will, I'm sure, be front and centre of CRM and Power Platform Connect that we've got in May. So hopefully we'll see all our customers there. You'll start to receive invites for that shortly. And then aside from that, that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, John. And thanks for everybody watching, listening. That's the end of another kind of CRM and Power Platform podcast with Tecman Talks Dynamics. We'll see you on the next one.